Genesis chapter 21, verse 1. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Verse 2. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Verse 3. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. Verse 4. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God commanded him. Verse 5. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Verse 6. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Verse 7. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. Verse 8. The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. Verse 9. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. Verse 10. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's sons will never share the inheritance with my son Isaac. Verse 11. The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son. Verse 12. But God said to him, do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Verse 13. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring. Verse 14. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them there on her shoulders and then sent her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. Verse 15. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Verse 16. Then she went off and sat down about a bush away. For she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. And as she sat there, she began to sob. Verse 17. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Verse 18. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation. Verse 19. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. Verse 20. God was with the boy, and she grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. Verse 21. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. Verse 22. At the time Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Verse 23. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Shew to me and the country where you now reside as a foreigner the same kindness I have shown to you. Verse 24. Abraham said, I swear it. Verse 25. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servant had seized. Verse 26. But Abimelech said, I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today. Verse 27. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Verse 28. Abraham set apart 7 old lambs from the flock. Verse 29. And Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 old lambs you have set apart by themselves? Verse 30. He replied, Accept these 7 lambs from my hands as a witness that I dug this well. Verse 31. So that place was called Beersheba, because the 2 men swore an oath there. Verse 32. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Verse 33. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. Verse 34. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. Genesis chapter 22. Verse 1. Sometime later God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Verse 2. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Verse 3. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. Verse 4. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. Verse 5. He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you. Verse 6. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife, as the 2 of them went on together. Verse 7. Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father! Yes, my son? Abraham replied, the fire and the wood are here. Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Verse 8. Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the 2 of them went on together. Verse 9. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar, on the top of the wood. Verse 10. Then he reached out his hands and took the knife to slay his son. Verse 11. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Verse 12. Do not lay a hand on the boy, he said. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Verse 17. I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possessions of the cities of their enemies. Verse 18. And through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me. Verse 19. Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Verse 20. Sometime later Abraham was told, Milcah is also a mother. She has borne sons to your brother Nahor. Verse 21. Uz the firstborn, Bush his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram. Verse 22. Kisid, Hazo, Pildas, Jidlap, and Bethel. Verse 23. Bethel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nahor. Verse 24. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also had sons Tiba, Gaham, Tahash, and Makkah.